And we are recording on Wednesday, January 7th, 2026 at 10:09 a.m. Eastern Time, the day after the glorious insurrection. For all of those who celebrate with Ian Burlingame, Halsey English, guys, go to the links in the description, Twitters, YouTube, Substacks, blah, 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 blah. All that shit. Halsey said, so you claimed getting rid of the sriracha. No, I did. And that has been the story of the last 2 years is getting sober. And the first year so January 2024 took about a year to get sober. No, a year, the first year of sobriety, I told myself I could eat whatever I want. And I did. And I stayed sober. The next year last year, I lost 52 pounds in 52 weeks. It has been a series of just removing the things that make me happy. I'd stop. I'm slowly doing less of the cheat days. I'm doing less of the all-nighters, gaming, even sriracha. I've gotten rid of that because I was fucked me up in that show last. I couldn't talk to you guys. I was like burping and shit. So no, it is just a series of removing all things, all joys in my life. And I gotta be ironically enough, it's the best I've ever felt in my life. So maybe there's a lesson.
Well,
You got
welcome to white privilege.
Yeah, I mean, it is ironic though. Removing all the things that make me happy,
Right? Well, that's
have
white privilege. Just remove everything that makes you happy.
That's literally
do
like
the
the
work.
tweet.
better.
That's
And
literally like the
That's
tweet.
Zen.
You
That's
know?
Zen Buddhism. That is so fucking universal. That is the Eightfold Path. That is fucking. That is.
It's absolutely true. It's even the monastic orders, the Catholic monastic orders, et cetera. They same thing, right?
Yeah.
Except for those flagellants. Those flagellants are some pretty weird people.
Well,
Are the ones that whip themselves, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. They say they're
Yeah.
getting rid of the things they enjoy. They like that.
Yeah.
Fucking freaks.
Yeah.
All right, you guys take it away. I gotta go make my.
Yeah.
I gotta go make my faggot
Like a
juice.
German woman in black spandex.
I swear, I love spicy food. Like I could take stuff like sriracha and just dip crackers into it, like for a snack. I love spicy food.
I'm about as white gets. I can't handle spice. I don't even like black pepper.
Really? I don't
Yeah.
know. It's one of those tastes that like grew on me. Like
Mm,
I started just with like things that just had a kick to it.
yeah.
And then I just started eating spicier and spicier food. And now I'm at the point where like if it blasts my mouth with heat, I'm fine. Like, you know?
I'm Norse, though, on both sides of my family. We don't have a whole lot of spicy things that grow up on the edge of the ice sheet or the
Mhm.
Arctic, right? So just not
My
designed
DNA is
for it.
50% Ashkenazi Jewish, 50% Irish. It's fun, like it's literally like exactly 50-50, you
Yeah,
know?
well, I'm Norman, English, and Scottish. No, crazy thing is my daughters have Filipino, and from her Filipino side, she's got just a tiny bit of Ashkenazi in her.
Hmm.
It's because the Castilians ran the Philippines for the
Hmm.
Spanish Empire, and they have some Ashkenazi blood in them.
I have a friend. He's Spanish from Spain,
Mm.
and so he was arguing with a bunch of white nationalists, one of the white nationalists said something to him like, "And what have the Spanish ever given the world?" And he went and he thought about it for a minute. He went, "Mexicans."
Venezuelans.
Yeah,
Oh.
you know.
So, Halsey, other than spice and this horrible conflict you have between being Ashkenazi and Irish that you must have to live with every day, what's
I
on
do.
your mind?
I don't know, man. I'm kind of stoked. Like I'm happy with what I saw in Venezuela. I'm happy with the way things are going with Trump. I think Trump performs best when Trump is telling his haters to go fuck themselves.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You know what
That's
I'm
what a man.
saying?
That's a real man. A real
Yeah.
man's always that way. Yeah, yeah.
So I think
Well,
Trump's at
and
like peak
when
Trump
he
right
gets,
now.
yeah, terribly sorry. And when he gets to see who might not quite be loyal in his own circle because they're chasing down some stupid shit, and then he's got a chance,
Hmm.
like a father, to go, "You really want to go down that pathway?"
Hmm. I'm
Halsey's
wondering what's about to happen in Iran, though, because there's reports they're evacuating all the embassies in Iran. Like Australia told its citizens to get out right now.
Yeah, well, that's
Um,
British, the Australians. So one of the things we need to be very careful. So this is a great place to start, Halsey. One of the things we have to be careful with right now, and this is a positive, as dangerous as it is that the only thing the British, Brussels, Rome power structure has left right now is information warfare. And most all of what we're seeing is these attempts to goad and fear and, to convince us that we're at war with Russia, China, Iran, that it's all on, it's all out. U.S. is seizing ships in front of, Russian warships and submarines and, all of that. Everything is a lie. It's all a deception. Right? And what's happening in Iran? My suspicion, well, one, I know it's a British operation because they're putting the face of the Shah's son out in front of everything. So straight up across the board British operation. The one thing that gives me the confidence is that the one thing Trump said about it to the existing regime is, if you go to blood in the streets, you just start slaughtering people to stay in power, we will respond. But that's all he said. Right? And that's a tell to me of, okay, regime, if you can hang on, if you can survive, okay. We're not going to intervene. We're not going to, get involved. But if you do, do as Napoleon did, where he put cannons in the intersections of Paris, filled them with grape shot and chains. If you do something, which, by the way, is freaking awesome, right? He ended the revolution that way. Right?
Agreed.
Didn't Trump tweet right when he got into office, a man who saves his nation breaks no laws? You can't champion Napoleon and also say that's the limit. That's a personal hang up. I was going to interrupt. Halsey being half English, our mutual friend Stoley, he's half Irish. He always jokes he's an Irish Israelite, and he comments on every episode with Halsey, and I didn't even realize it was him. I just thought it was just some other random guy that was like the Jews, and I realized it was Stoley just fucking with you. He's like, how come only the Jew cares about money? So Stoley, if you ever see a comment in there, if it says Stoley, he's a real one. But yeah, no, is that looking too into it though? The whole Napoleon thing, or is that just a stupid hang up?
I'm having a connection problem here.
Hey, you're good.
Yeah, I'm having a hanging.
You're good, Halsey.
Bloody.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, well, he have a connection problem. Is it? But so he's saying if you can stay in power, you can stay in power, but there's a limit.
He's saying that he's telling the British straight up that what he's not going to tolerate is more chaos. Is that he understands how the game is played. He understands that the British and French thrive in chaos. And he's not putting up with it anymore. He's not letting them shit stir around the world and then watching us commit lives and treasure to fix their messes. Like it's a big move. It's a huge move. I mean, if you didn't notice, also with this whole Greenland thing, which I'm still not sure if it's a troll or not, but like from the beginning, he's been saying like, I don't really care. Like I'm taking Greenland, and like this week they were threatening like NATO retaliation if he tries to take Greenland, and now they've stopped with the rhetoric and they're like, well, we want to meet with Rubio and discuss.
Yeah. So Halsey, I'm totally with you. This message wasn't to the regime. This message was to the British. Yeah, right. What it was what should have happened in Ukraine in 2014 with the Maidan, except that we were behind it and we were driving it. Right. We're not in Iran. So it's the same thing in Venezuela right now. Right. We didn't leave forces behind, and we didn't, leave. Now, what we did do is we killed the Cuban security details so that the current, the newly in power. And that's the other thing. We didn't do a regime change in Venezuela. We just removed the top guy and left the regime as it was, and let the next person, the executive, which is our equivalent to a vice president, get promoted in accordance with the Venezuelan constitution. All right. So we didn't do a regime change. We just removed a guy. And then we did
what we're doing in Iran. We said, fix your shit and we're fine. But we're not going to allow this brinksmanship to continue for 1 second more.
Now, what we did do is we killed that foreign security detail that was holding the president of the country captive and would have done the same to anybody else who came in power. Right. So, okay, what's happening in Iran? Certain IRGC people are getting taken out. Why? Because as we've talked about before, those are Brits. Yep. The IRGC does not work for the Ayatollah. The IRGC works for the city of London. That's been their way. See, this goes back to 1688. This is how The continental Europeans have controlled the English-speaking people since 1688. How? They've controlled the crown by being the only providers of their physical security.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you think that we haven't been replicating that pattern all over the world for the last 300 plus years?
No, you're definitely right. You know what's crazy? I'm subscribed to this newsletter that's called History Facts, and it has like the most like random stuff. Like it'll say like what did they eat in ancient Rome? Or like what did they farm here? Like just the most random stuff. And we did the podcast last week, me, you, and Tom. And then all of a sudden, the history facts the next day was like, how did the Roman Empire expand into Britain? And the whole article was about, is Britain still the Roman Empire? And
That's
it was
exactly,
like, I was like, damn,
yeah.
like, you know, it's cool to see historians validate the stuff we talk about, because it's easy for people who don't want to listen to what we're saying to just go, oh, they're just conspiracy theorists. They love reaching and grabbing facts out of history. It's like, no, we actually research this stuff like pretty well.
Some of us also comes from very old families, and these things aren't historical facts for us. They're family history.
Yep.
Right. And this is the thing that people forget, that with all this forced flooding of people that don't come, it's like, no, some of us come from very old families. This is just family history.
Yep. Right? I say that all the time when they were out protesting the tearing down of the Confederate statues. Half of those statues are my family. You know, like my family's been here since the 1600s. Like we like American history is our history.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. It's like, okay, we're having a conversation at the dinner table when I'm 8 years old. Like it happened yesterday. That was 300 years ago.
Yep.
Right. This is the thing that, too many don't understand, is that for some of us, this isn't history. This is just a continuation of the family. Right.
Just on a quick side note, your cat just appeared on the like in the back, and he literally gave us a look like, sorry, I'm late.
Just come in quietly, cat. Yeah.
Come on, buddy. Yeah. No. So, the way in which the Roman system works is they control the emperor. They control the nobility. They control so the Praetorians, they were the security for generals. They were the security for senators. They were security for merchants, top merchants. They were the security for the nobility, and they were the security for the emperors and their whole families. Well, every once in a while, they'd kill somebody.
Yep.
Usually one of the kids. As a way
I'm wondering if you noticed something. There was something that you talk about all the time that I noticed last week, and I thought it was such a big deal, and no one else seems to care, which makes me think it's a bigger deal than even I thought. Right after the Venezuela operation, some tranny tried to kill Pence, went and attacked Pence.
Yes.
And I was like, there's the retaliation. I was wondering what the retaliation was going to be. And there it was. Because we were talking about the Trans-Tifa army.
Vance or Pence?
Vance.
I was going to say, I saw the Vance thing. It came in the news.
I'm sorry.
So I said this before. Everybody, I want to be careful here. I haven't had my breakfast yet, right? People might want to take a look at what happened to the American trans spokesperson for the Ukrainian military and Ukrainian government. And where is that guy now? And what's he doing? What operations is he still running for the Ukrainians, for the Azovs?
Who?
The spokes thing of the Ukrainian army.
So we've now had three attacks, right? Two of them, one against the president, one against Charlie Kirk, and now one against Vance. They're all trans or trans-related, furries, etc. Who's running that operation? Wasn't there a trans guy who was American trans, who was a spokesperson for the Ukrainian, for the Azovs, etc. in the first couple of years of the war? Where is he now?
Was dismissed for being too radical. Like that was the whole point.
I don't recall.
What's he doing?
Who's this? Who's the second guy? The golf course attempt on Trump? That guy was a fucking Ukrainian.
Same.
Die hard. This is Slava Ukraini. Like it.
So who's running that operation and how that operation's being run? Well, if the way you run operations today, well, it's Ukraine, straight up. It's British. right? It's the continuation of the Banderites. Okay. How is it being done? What's the infrastructure? It's an alternate reality game.
Mm-hmm.
It's how they recruit them. That's how they train them. It's how they develop them. It's how they get them on scene, how they get them on target. Luigi Mangione may be another one of these. Yep. And now there's a whole trail, and it's all plausibly deniable.
I said from the day this whole thing started, when people were like, I don't understand this dedication of London and France and the US to and Biden to Ukraine. And I said, well, they know where the bodies are buried. Like if Russia takes
they
Ukraine,
buried them. Yeah.
If Russia takes Ukraine, the city of London falls. Like it's that simple. There's just too much information there that buries the British.
This is why but the British operate cellularly as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
And so it won't trace back directly to the city of London. Money flows, but that'll be washed through, et cetera. That's just not how this game's played, right? Mm-hmm. Back to Maduro. Maduro was removed, my take. That's what I would do. Maduro was willingly removed because there was an MI6 CIA coup already being set up to put Machado in power, which would have replaced the current regime, which was coming and has been coming towards America and ARC for the last couple of years. And so, of course, what would the MI6 and CIA, what would the Devil's Legions do? They'd coup his ass and they would put Machado in there. And all that was being set up. Okay, well, now they're trying to, and so if I'm the current regime there and I am the presidente who coups tend to string up and kill and drag their bodies through the street kind of thing, right? Think Gaddafi and Saddam and, others. I'd probably want to get out of there. Right?
Yep.
And
what's crazy? I get this weird gift because I'm religious, right? I leave for 24 hours every week. And then that also tends to be when the most action happens is from Friday night to Saturday. But then I come back Saturday and I have to kind of make sense of everything, but I'm doing it not having followed it the whole time. And when I got back this Saturday night, one of my kids went and checked the internet and said, "Oh my God, we took Venezuela and blah 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 blah." But I was already listening to a podcast of a guy that noticed he's an economic podcaster, and he noticed this a few hours before the operation that Russia, China, and the U.S. moved something like 87 metric tons of silver out of Venezuela. He didn't see it as an op coming on Venezuela. He saw it as just part of the whole, global silver trade and, the fact that the prices were skyrocketing and all of that. And then it was like, I kind of put the two and two together. I was like, oh, that's why there wasn't any blood. Is because we told Russia and China, we're about to do this. Get your silver out of there. Like, we're not playing around.
Very good. So here's the other thing.
That's also why Maduro didn't catch a bullet to the face, and that's why he got his life out.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Correct. Now talk about a ride and die woman, right? Literally rode.
I don't know if she had a choice.
Well, I think she probably went with. She could have stayed with.
I saw a funny tweet about it. It said we really wanted we really wanted to show Maduro how much we didn't like him because not only are we going to throw him in prison forever, but we brought his wife along.
Yeah, so he's got.
Yeah, those are those memes. Yeah, where it's like he's just like he's wishing he had a bullet. They're on the Iwo Jima, and she's like, "I thought you said we were safe," and he's like, "Not now, just not." Just Delta guys around him, just fucking please.
So what they're trying to do right now is they're trying to accelerate the coup in Iran to do the same thing because the Iranian government's been coming to the U.S. for the last year plus as well. And so what are we doing? It's the same thing, so. We can't directly intervene. I guarantee you there's another way we're intervening, and we're making sure that flows of cash, and payments don't flow in to make this bigger and crazier. So we're controlling that as much as we can. And we are doing everything possible to prevent the flow of weapons and munitions and explosives into the country so that the British CIA, MI6, City of London, Amsterdam, Rome, operation to throw over the regime to replace it with an even worse regime that's anti-American that will start World War III through the Central Asia frickin' vector, gets in power, right? So I almost guarantee what we're doing, part of these ships and capturing these ships, et cetera, is those are weapons, right? Because if you look, they're not loaded with oil. They're sitting too high in the water, way too high. So it's probably weapons, leadership, and gold and silver, because people need to understand something. Down at the base level, the guys that do the double black work, right? Black ops, there's double black ops, right? The guys who do double black ops won't ever take fucking crypto in payment.
Nope.
They don't even want cash because they want a trail. And they're going to put that, they want base metals. Why? Because it's high density wealth. And they can stash it away somewhere physically that they can physically secure and defend.
It can't be inflated. Yeah, you can go bury it in the backyard.
Correct. Correct. This is ancient, right? This goes back to mercenaries, Machiavelli, everybody else talking about it, right?
It's in Grand Theft Auto 5. Yeah, no, the Grand Theft Auto 5, the CEO of the fictional Blackwater is trying to pay off his kidnapper. And you're the kidnapper, and you just finished the game, and you did the big heist. He's like, I'll give you all these shares, all these everything. The entire game, everyone's being manipulated with money. But at the end, they steal bullion. And one of the final lines is, I don't know if you've heard, but I'm gold rich now. And they just fucking kills him.
Yeah, so this is something that people really need to understand. In Double Black world, right? The Devil's Legions, they only take hard payment. They will not take other things. Now, unless it's something that's a throwaway or it's a pay, but when it comes down to doing something that puts their lives on the line, their families' lives on the line, they will only take base metals. Now, sometimes they'll take, copper or aluminum or zinc or something else, but it's because they already got a buyer that they can quick flip that to for gold or silver. Yep. And by the way, far more of them get paid in silver than in gold, because silver's more available. Silver's also not just the monetary metal, but it's also an industrial metal. Yeah. And so you have another market for it, right? You have other ways to bleed it out, to convert it to cash or to assets, et cetera, right? And the entire British system and Chinese system, and if I remember correctly, the Persian system, but I can't remember exactly, are all still based off silver. Right.
Yes and no, but you're mostly right on that. You're right enough on it to make the statements you're saying.
Okay, I appreciate that. So, with respect to Iran, and again, also now with Venezuela, there is a certain amount of we have to let the regimes secure themselves. Because if they can't secure themselves against this, all-in fifth generation warfare to try and get us back to fourth and third generation warfare, which is World War III, right? If they can't survive this, then they probably shouldn't be in power.
Yep.
Because they're a vulnerability.
Also, I think there's a big part of the reason we're following these Russian ships all over the place as well, is that the same planes we allowed to take the Russian, Chinese, and American silver back to home base, right? We're not allowing that same courtesy to Europe. And we're not allowing Europe to contract with rogue elements in Russia and in China to get their own wealth out of Venezuela.
We need to be careful. Yeah. So this is you bring up another great point to make a clarification of. We need to be very careful. Ships change their flagging regularly.
All the time, because they're not flagged in their home countries.
Correct. So
they're flagged out of Liberia or they're flagged out of elsewhere. So they have the ability to change based on cargo, not based on destination.
Correct. And insurance. So, often it's about the insurance. And quite frankly, often it's about, well, what do I want? What signature do I want to put on this cargo I'm moving? Who do I want to implicate? Like that ship that was, the one that was just this morning or yesterday, that was only recently flagged to Russia. But what does the new news and information cycle say? Russian ship previously flagged in Iran, right? So people need to understand a flag on a ship means jack fucking shit. Think pirates who would run up a flag on the ship, of the
Skull and Bones or whatever.
Yeah. Well, not the Skull and Bones. They would fly a British flag or a French flag until they got close enough to the ship to broadside it or board it, right? And then they put the Jolly Roger or whatever that's called, right? So what we need to understand right now is that the Europeans and unfortunately, my beloved English are all in on driving us to war, to World War III, Russia, China, Iran against the US and Europe, because it's their last hope. It's their last hope. They've got nothing else. They've had all the government funding, the foreign aid and all the grift from the American tax base. That's been dried up. The illicit funding's being dried up. Now, it's not completely dried up, but it's being dried up. And now we are starting with these indictments, right, of Comey and others. That's actually the beginning of going after the private wealth, the offshore wealth, right? And you can't, most of that's all derivative based, so you're not going to be able to confiscate it. But what you can do is you can, through legal complicated processes that are too far beyond having a conversation over, but you can invalidate the wealth because you can articulate that the funds that were used to purchase the derivatives at some point in the chain were illicitly obtained, and therefore those and oh, by the way, what does that do? That also wipes out a good portion of the debt, right? Good portion of our debt gets wiped out, and this is something Tom and I talked about on Tommy. I think your show or somebody else's a year ago or somewhere around there. That
I've been banging this drum for a while now about the fact that we need to nuke our currency in order to handle the debt.
Well, that's one way to do it, but another way to do it is that you invalidate legally and properly. You invalidate many of the holders of the debt because they obtained the funds to purchase that debt illicitly.
Right.
So what do? You just, you're no longer a debt holder. That debt's wiped out, right? Because it was illicitly obtained. And that's easily, I would say, about $38 trillion of debt that we have. That's easily 30 trillion of it. Easily. Now, it's complicated and sophisticated, and how do you do it through all the courts and the legal actions and all of that? You have to do that. So a good portion of our debt's going to just get erased because it's the people who hold it that we owe it to obtained it illegally. Right? Well, the funds that they used to purchase the debt was illicit funds through, whether it's gone through, washed through banks, et cetera. FinCEN, people really need to understand how powerful FinCEN is. FinCEN knows all. And if they don't, DTCC and Euroclear do, right? FinCEN tracks every transaction in or out of the United States in denominated in dollars all the way down to $600.
I also think there's a big part of it, and again, this might be me putting on a tinfoil hat a little bit, but the Russian ships that the Americans are tracking at this point as well, right? If they are carrying European wealth, which I firmly believe that they are, they're making sure they don't go to Iran to lock down as much illegal oil as they can before something big happens there, whether it be internal revolution or external attacks. And I feel like they want to make sure that even if that wealth is going to be used to purchase, they're not going to let it purchase illicit oil from the Iranian regime, therefore strengthening them, therefore dragging Iran and Russia into a further war with Europe that could enmesh us. They want to make sure that whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and that they're not going to let the Europeans, kind of influence it any more than they already are.
Yeah, I don't think this has much at all to do with oil, even the illicit oil, or an excuse, causus belli for, conflict, et cetera. What I suspect very much is it's more if this is licitly or illicitly obtained European hard wealth flowing to Central Asia, it is to infuse the intelligence network, the guerrilla forces, the auxiliaries, the undergrounds, the paramilitary stuff, et cetera, that have been developed for, the World War III in that region of the world, all of which will require at this point, because there's such an effort at every level against the use of dollars and banking system, et cetera, that virtually all of those would require hard cap, gold or silver. Right. So
there was something else, by the way, and I agree with you, but I forgot. I don't want to forget to mention this because it's important. It either validates completely you or it validates completely me, but either way, it's still a big deal. everyone's talking about how we violated Venezuela without a single Chinese made system picking up on our aircraft.
They were off.
Right? Yeah. That I'm kind of leaning like I hate admitting you're right on this one, but the fact that they didn't even misfire. If they misfired, that would validate more what I was saying, that they're just trash, right? Because they still would pick up on something and they would misfire. They would just miss wildly if they were trash.
5,000 man pads hand fired and nobody fired a single.
Pure stealth.
Right.
Pure stealth in an F-117 or B-2, sure, but they were flying in Chinooks and 160th Sword. That's just not. You're right. It would misfire. It maybe wouldn't hit it
at the worst. And people saying growlers, etc. It doesn't matter. They would still fire because there's even visual.
Yeah,
you don't even forget. Okay, so
there's optical, IR, thermal.
Nobody can see. Nobody's got eyes. They can't hear the freaking helicopter.
Like, you know what else you would see? Remember, they posted videos of it right after. If the targets were painted, right, meaning that the radar picked up on them, they would at least be doing evasive maneuvers, and they're not. They're flying straight on, right onto target, landing and doing it. Those weapon systems were off.
Here's my firm belief, right? Here's my very firm belief, and here's why, okay? Very much why. There are 4 countries in the world right now that are being, with everything that can be done, the attempt is being made with all that can be made to drive them to war. The United States, Russia, China, and Iran. Not a one of those countries wants to go to war. And certainly not the 3 big ones against each other.
No.
Not at all.
I think there's an acknowledgement between Russia, China, and the U.S. that the rest of the world wants us to fight. They're trying to push us to fight.
Not the rest of the world, just Europe and the UK, and
that's kind of what I meant. The third world doesn't get a say in this kind of
the rest of the rest of the meaningful world.
Yeah, well,
the third world doesn't really get a say.
Let's say it openly. The white people, the non-Russian
the white people world, people world,
right? So the pumpkin spice white liberal women want us, and their cuck and testosterone low men, right, want us all to kill each other, right?
Yep.
They're openly saying it, though, by the way, right? So it's not like this is, tinfoil or any other kind of hat. They're openly calling for it. So, of course, Russia, China, U.S., and Iran are all sharing intelligence. Of course, they're doing what they can within reason, right? Because they have to, because they have their own problems with, Praetorian problems internally and Devil's Legions problems internally, right? Because you always have factions, and you've always, even if you're, all about not war, do you think Russia doesn't have some factions where some people would love to see Putin torn down? They don't care if they sell out the Russians. Of course there are, right?
Same thing in China with Xi.
Same thing with China and Xi, right? Same thing with Iran, right? So, of course, and here, of course, right, we've had the seditious Six and everybody else. So you always got factions. So you're always going to have to do this carefully. But I suspect very much the Chinese delegation was there on purpose. I think the whole Maduro operation was brokered through the Chinese.
I think so too. We met with China the day before.
And I believe,
and then all their wealth is pulled out, and then it just happens. And you notice China hasn't been very vocal on this whole thing.
Well, what was one of the first things Trump said? We're going to honor the contracts, the oil contracts with China. Why? Because China's built for Venezuelan oil. We're not anymore, right? So okay.
Well, we are. We have 2 of the biggest refineries in the world for heavy crude. So
no, actually, when we did the heavy sanctions, we retooled those. Chevron retooled, and so did Exxon. So
they retooled the one in California, and the one in Louisiana. Our one in Texas and another one in California are still the biggest in the world. I looked into it. We still have 2 of the biggest in the world. Okay. So, but it doesn't invalidate what you're saying. It doesn't invalidate what you're saying. I'm just saying that we also have the ability to process it, but we're not. For us, it's not about the same as China. For us, it's not about energy. It's about leverage over the Canadians. So
this gets to Tom, right? This gets to what Tom says. But Venezuela, so what is China's single greatest dependency? Manufacturing. What is the single greatest dependency for manufacturing? Shipping. You have to be able to move the goods across the sea to the parts of the world where they will buy those goods. So what does that make your key input for the Chinese economy and Chinese system? Crude oil that you can burn almost straight direct, filtering out water, filtering out some heavy particulates, some dirts and other things. And then you can burn it almost directly in ships. It doesn't require a whole lot of processing, refinement, etc. So Venezuela crude is perfect for shipping. And Tom's very, of course, he's very right about it. He knows chemistry way better than I ever would, right? So, okay, wonderful. We don't need that oil. We don't want the oil. It doesn't work in our stuff. Now it does maybe for some of our ships and the Navy, et cetera. So, okay, great. Give me 1 second. The detail, the Chinese folks that were in Venezuela at the time, and there was Russians previous, everything that we sell to a foreign country has a remote kill switch.
Well,
do you think the Russians and Chinese don't have that built into their own stuff?
Well, and
of course they do.
Well, of course, and so that's kind of what I was thinking is that's like why we you export the shit you do so you can turn it off. But if we were just approaching this with like no precedent or anything, it might be a stretch to say China knew and was on board and gave it but you have to look at like what did happen. It's like, have we seized anything? Well, yeah, we were seizing ships with SF and broadcasting it daily. We were hitting drug boats. Okay, so the precedent's there that nothing ever happens. No, nothing. Something's happening, but then the silver and the gold get out. That was allowed out. And yeah, you're right. No misfires, no painting, no. You don't see any flares. They're not doing any crazy shit. That and then remote kill switches. So Venezuela's in on it. You don't need them in on it. You need the guys that own the shit.
Let me give you another little piece, guys. All right. Let me give you another piece from a former targeting guy. Right. It's pretty easy. Well, it's not pretty easy, but it's relatively easy to track pretty much almost anywhere in the world if you want to. Who gets on a plane where and where that plane's going. It's very hard to do that with a ship. Now you can see that they got on the ship in a port. Right? If you got your eyes on the port, but you can't know if they got off that ship somewhere as they were underway at sea. It's very hard, very, very difficult. It takes a lot of assets, a lot of resources, paying a lot of attention, 24/7, all kinds of conditions, etc. Right? So what was really on those ships? I almost guarantee you it was Devil's Legion, CIA, MI6, etc. assets, human assets, that were being moved out of country. And we have no idea where they would have, debarked from those tankers. That's what you do. Might or might not teach that in the schoolhouse, by the way.
Yeah, it's not as bottlenecked and streamlined as the airport, where it's like you're whether even let's just say without data, like, oh, it's a fake ID or it's a fake debit card. I mean, just facial recognition. It's that's a pretty buttoned up system versus
it's also ship. Very hard to disembark in an aircraft unless you're parachuting out. But very few people parachute out over the ocean.
DB Cooper, yeah, that's a good point.
Right,
you're not doing that.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And the amount of effort you would need to make sure you knew every ship where. Yeah, you're not using all those assets on all that.
No. And that's not to say that people don't disembark off aircraft. Again, we might teach that in a schoolhouse, but those are very unique, skilled individuals, and there ain't a whole lot of them, relatively in the world. And most of the people you want to work, that you want to keep an eye on, don't have those skills.
So kind of zooming out a couple orders of magnitude to get away from like the nitty gritty of what happened and why it probably happened and why it was allowed. Broad strokes is okay. So there's three powerhouses: Iran or America, Russia, China. We just went and kidnapped the president, which was the funniest thing Trump's ever done, and the other two kind of just probably let it happen. What are the implications of that on the less of the minutia? Less of the how many shots.
Oh, you want me to have some fun with this for a minute? Because I'm going to validate what EM said before, but he didn't expand on it enough to for the audience to get it. Okay, we were talking about gold having a certain value and silver having a certain value. Silver's value is much more in industrial manufacturing than gold is. Gold is literally a store of wealth. Okay, whereas silver has actual practical applications that need to be used. Like every gas-powered car, I think has 25 grams of silver or 25 ounces of silver in it.
Computer
Every EV
screens,
has
big
like
screen
50.
TVs, all of
Yep.
them. Yeah.
So, in case you didn't notice, we allowed the silver to go where the silver needs to go, which is China and Russia, because they're manufacturing right now like crazy. They need the silver. They don't need the wealth. They need the silver.
Mm.
We need the wealth. So what did we take? We took our gold and we took the oil and we took our Bitcoin. Understand that Maduro, because of the way he's been operating for a while now, has been farming Bitcoin by the ton. And we took that back. There's been reports of the wallets moving out of Venezuela for a while now, right? And moving back in. Now, what do we need to do with China and Russia in order to set the world right for us? I keep saying this over and over and over and over again. We need to devalue our currency in order to get rid of the debt. Okay. And we're going to do that between gold and Bitcoin. That's how we're going to do it. But it's also a huge thing for China and Japan as well. Not as much Russia. Russia doesn't have as much debt that matters. Okay. And Russia also has the natural resources to overcome that debt. They don't need to stockpile gold and silver and Bitcoin to get out of their debt spiral, but Japan and China do. Right? So we're allowing China to grow their way out of their debt. And at the same time, when we start taking care of our debt, China and Japan are going to benefit from it too, because they're going to be able to take the same currencies that we have and use them to devalue their own debt. So it's what I'm very encouraged by, and people call me a shill for this, and I don't really care, is that I've never looked at China as an enemy. I look at China as a competitor, right?
Yes.
And when you're a
Yeah.
competitor, there are plenty of times you sign deals with each other because it's mutually beneficial. Like you might both think you're getting the better of it, but at the same time, like Walmart signs deals with China. It's not, they don't look at China like, oh my God, they might be sending us this or they might be doing this evil thing to us. No, Walmart signs deals with China and gets the US to back them up on it, right? They're our competitor. But we also recognize that the three major powers have issues. And we're working together on those issues in a way that can't be reported. If they tried, people wouldn't get it in the first place. So the fact that these things
60
keep
years, 100 years of this is your enemy.
Yeah.
Psyops work, right? Psyops
for
work.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, Russian
But
nukes
you know
are
what's kind of
coming,
cool,
China
and I
rising.
want to I don't want to let you guys get off before I mention this, because this is one of those things I also monitor, which is really kind of cool. The podcast right psyop that's been going through Britain, through Qatar, and everywhere to fuck with us online is collapsing. Literally, Candace Owens went from the number one podcast in the country. She's now at 57. Right? They released Dan Bongino from deputy director of the FBI, and he's going scorched earth on the critics of the Trump administration. ICE just pledged that they're going to hire 10,000 podcasters that currently exist to promote the idea of mass remigration. So, like, I want to get some of that money.
How do I get on that?
I would assume
I
that
think
you
you have
just
to
contact
throw-
them some.
I think you have to throw a Guatemalan family out of a helicopter.
I'll
or
fucking
something.
do it. I don't care. I've tried to. It's like when people
Tommy's
ask,
like, where's the Chinook? I'm there.
when people say there's like too many views or too many ads on YouTube, I'm always like, I've tried the fan funded model for 6 years. By the way, and the math is, and I'm not even making this up, it comes down to exactly if everybody watched the show, gave me 1 penny per month, the show would be funded in spades. And that doesn't work. So now there's ads on everything and people complain about it. Shut the fuck up. This further extrapolates to I will throw a Guatemalan family right out of a Chinook. You should have joined Patreon. Fuck off. Like, I'll
Join my
do it.
Patreon for the exclusive video.
I'll fucking throw them out. I don't give a shit. I'll jump out with them. I don't. Sorry, but
well, you'll have a parachute.
I
But
don't
I'm
even-
saying but I'm saying if you notice Nick Fuentes, who everyone has been calling a federal asset for a while now, which I don't completely
He's
doubt.
a British asset.
Yeah, but British Fed, it's all the same thing. right? As far as I'm concerned. And he's now like firmly on the like I don't care what my audience says, what Trump did was awesome bandwagon. Candace is getting destroyed. Matt Gaetz is getting destroyed. All these other people that have been picking up steam are getting hammered by people that matter. Right? Like the only one they're not taking on is Tucker, and I have a feeling like that's just something they're not going to do. But at the same time, the idea that the podcast right was influencing our politics and had an influence on Trump and Vance is going right down the shitter, which is very important heading into the midterms, right? So the psyop that's been going on for a long time of hiring these actors to come out of nowhere whenever elections spring up. And trust me, I spent 100 grand of my own money, had 9 investigative journalists, 2 computer techs. Like we looked into this for years. That these actors that show up out of nowhere running for office in swing states or in areas where Democrats are weak, so that basically everyone could go, oh, you were looking for the Nazis? There they are. Like, because they show
So,
up out of nowhere, they run on like a purely National Socialist platform and wanting to kill all the Jews and all the blacks and all that. And then as soon as they get crushed, they disappear out of nowhere and don't appear again until the next election. You
so
know?
one of the things that I'm noticing is I am seeing a whole lot of accounts with between, let's say, 50,000 and 200,000 subscribers or followers or whatever pop up out of nowhere that I've never seen before. Some of them have been around 10, 12, 15 years.
Yep.
Right. And they're okay. So what is that? Well, they're monetized and they're making money off of Twitter itself. Right.
Hmm.
And, at least to support way better than I do, I might basically Twitter pays for itself for me, which is cool. I'm happy about
Hmm.
that. Right now, at least I don't have to pay for Twitter and I can write articles and long form things and, cool. Right.
You
Um,
inspired me to do it. I upgraded my membership so I could write
awesome.
articles as well.
Awesome. So, the thing that does concern me still is and the depth and extent of these accounts shocks me that they're still, these aren't bots. Now, some of them are bots. Actually, even some of these bots have 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 followers.
Well, they're all bot forms that follow each other, so that's not shocking either. But
Well, it's true, but some of these are very sophisticated. Meaning these were.
Mhm.
So, what have we done at Twitter so far? We've burned through all the low-level shit bots and many of the neg bots. Still, some of them pop up here and there, and then there's this, anyways, throwaways. Now we're getting down to there's a whole other class of bot and bot like accounts, which are very substantive and have been around for some time. And once they come in, because they have these larger followings, et cetera, they're disrupting the whole conversation, the whole narrative, the whole dialogue. The question becomes one of I'm not seeing them get burned. I'm not seeing them get, removed out of the picture, the dialogue, the algorithms, et cetera. And maybe they can't because maybe it's a real person and maybe it's, but they're getting paid. Point being is that there is still a vast amount of money being spent to warp and twist the conversation across all the social media platforms, particularly like right now in the last 2 days since the Maduro thing. I've seen nonstop, all these open source intelligence platforms, which drive me insane.
Me
right?
too.
And they're all coming up with these narratives about Russian, the flagging of the ships and the this and the that, and it's all this. And then the other ones, the ones that just our technology is so superior, we just overwhelm China and Russia, et cetera. And it's like, okay, I know who's saying that. I know why they're saying it. They're saying it to convince, because what are they trying to do? Drive us all to war with Russia and China. Well, if Russia and China shit's useless, why not go to war with them? Why not send all of our young men to die? Look how useless they are. Well, I'm going to tell you something. You want to know how useless they ain't? We never sent aircraft and never closed the skies over Ukraine once in the entire fucking war. That should pretty fucking much tell you how capable Russia and China's air defense systems are. And oh, by the way, how many missiles have been launched at Russia in this war? Some of them very high technology missiles, and how many of them actually struck? Drones, everything else? Get the fuck out of here. Right? I know why they're saying it. They're saying it specifically, right, to convince us that Russia and China are no threat. And unfortunately, I know a couple guys who might or might not be involved in all these messages and conversations, who might or might not be still on certain people's payrolls.
Well, it's also, put it more simply, the comedian Ray Kump was saying right at the beginning of the Ukraine war, and people are like, "We need to do a tactical nuke right now, get them." And he's like, the entire point of the Cold War, the lesson was that this doesn't work. He's like,
Correct.
and these guys weren't pussies. These Curtis LeMay, these
Correct.
guys were World War. They
Yeah,
did.
yeah. Oh, they were
Thought
all in.
they
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
nothing about vaporizing. What's the line from Dr. Strangelove? 100 million deaths, a very acceptable. They had no part of this was altruism, no
Yeah,
part
yeah,
of this
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
empathy. They just went, yeah, it can't fucking work.
It won't work. That's the thing. There's
That's
no
it. That's
such
it.
thing.
Had nothing
There's
to
no
do
such
with.
thing as a tactical nuke. One nuke goes
Course
off,
not, yeah.
even a dirty nuke. All nukes go off.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
And half of them go out with no human involved. Like tell you about the American system. People don't understand how the American system works. We get a go, right? 30 people put their keys in, does the little, their little sequence to make it launch, but not a single one of them knows who actually launched it. That's how
Yeah. And they also don't know where it's launching because they in case they have
Correct.
like hesitations.
because
Yeah.
of the psychological stuff, right? So people don't understand. America has a dead hand too. It's just got more steps.
Yeah, and a lot of our nukes are dial yield, which means it's set for 5 kilotons. I hope no
Yeah.
one dials it up to 5 megatons in the
Yeah.
heat of the moment. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
no, it's a tactical. Sure, it's a tactical nuke if you slow down 30 minutes a billion fold and look at it that way. Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Mhm.
And the
Yeah.
way it was only a 5 kiloton very quickly. It's they just sent 200 mega again. Dr. Strangelove, 1,500 megatons, sir. Yeah, man, it's. But the point is to bring back. It's like,
Yeah.
no, there is a. That's the most important thing to look back to is like there's no empathy or good feelings when it comes to military hegemony. The only reason we didn't vaporize Soviet Union wasn't because we thought we realized it was going to happen to us.
We'd vaporize ourselves.
And the same reason,
Exactly.
and the same reason,
Mutually
Russia,
assured destruction is a thing.
and the same reason Russia and China aren't flying shit over the U.S. is and it's not because they love us. That's what it is. Why do we run into? Because it's because we can't.
Yes.
That's a
Yes.
TLDR, human history. Why? Because they can. The
And
end.
here's one of the problems we have, though, right? One of the problems we have is we have a whole lot of lesser powers who don't understand real power, and they have no fuck all understanding of real warfare, including a lot of guys I know who've been in war. They don't understand no shit peer on peer warfare. They don't understand power.
It's
and
the
so
people
you
that
gotta-
put up gun-free zones and say, why was there a shooting? These are the same people that are saying Donald Trump, Hague now. And it's like enforced with, you can send Delta Force? Do you have Delta
Yep.
Force?
Well,
What do
it's even.
Well,
Well, I
even worse
loved all
than
the people that
It's-
were coming out saying, "Oh, now we could just we can't protest when Haiti comes in and tries to arrest Trump." It's like, yeah, I'm sure Haiti is going to accomplish that one in spades.
Well, those are low level retards. The bad retards is like the head of NATO, Rutte, calling for all out war with Russia. This is the head of NATO. This isn't some idiot keyboard warrior who was a cook in the army. This is the head of NATO.
Yeah. But so yeah, that's it's the respect of power and power alone, which kind
This
of
is
tells
why-
me that they probably at the very least didn't care about Maduro. At the most conspiratorial, turned off the systems.
It wouldn't even be conspiratorial. There is no way
For
this
the
went
for the
down.
people listening that
Yeah,
are dragging
yeah,
their
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
care. I don't care.
We would do the same. Listen, very much, and I don't care what people think, right? If they don't understand that Russia, China, and the United States do not want to go to World War III because it goes nuclear and it goes nuclear quick.
which again was the lesson we learned from fucking $50 trillion of wargaming.
Correct.
It doesn't work. Sorry.
And poking and prodding and testing and trying all these things, like, right? Like 10th Special Forces Group were walking around with fucking nukes on their backs, trying to poke and prod, Russia's, lines of defense, etc. Right? We did all kinds of shit. It wasn't like we just made nukes and it was like, see, we got we tried all kinds of shit to get an advantage to overcome this over 60 years. It didn't work. That's what brought the fucking SALT treaty and everything to the table. It was like, okay, listen, mutually assured destruction is a real thing. And now that it's here, there's no way to get around it. Let's come to some kind of accord that we're going to limit in the ways that we can limit. Right?
Yeah, and that's another important point is it's not that we didn't try.
Correct.
Correct. I mean, Edward Teller, the backyard bomb, 10 gigatons, 1,000 times more than 10 megatons. The idea is we could just put it on a boat and bring it near Russia, and at worst case, we could just set it off in Colorado and it'd still kill Russia. Kasaba howitzers using nukes as shape charges in orbit. We tried all of this shit. The Soviets thought the space shuttle was an orbital bomber. It probably was, which is why they've built Buran. Not because they wanted to extend the frontiers of space. They're like, these faggots are trying to fuck you. It doesn't work. We tried. Correct. We put our best foot forward and tried to kill each other.
Best minds, best brains, the best engineer when we still had good engineers and scientists and all of that. Yes. If you take that as the bedrock, then everything you then have to flowchart down and go, well, then they probably don't even want to escalate because what's the point if they know they can't go all the way? Why even waste money? Why even ruin their economy? Why even go down the road? It doesn't work. Correct. And so now it's like, okay, well, we took our eye off, we fought for 60 years on every front and exhausted ourselves. We took a break starting the 1990s, and unfortunately, we took a break. Our second and third sons and daughters got into power, and they don't have a fucking clue about real power. And now we're this close to doing what we all figured we're not going to do, right? Through decades of effort, right? The hard-earned lesson of let's not do this. This is the line. Let's not go beyond this. And oh, by the way, that's why America dropped 2 nukes on Japan. Japan had already surrendered 10 days before that. This wasn't made official yet. They hadn't made the meetup and the sign up. They'd already surrendered. But we dropped 2 nukes. Why? Because we did not want to go into a war immediately with the Soviets and everything. We didn't want to end the human race because we'd started a war that we couldn't stop. Right? Because that's the other problem. Once wars get started, as we've seen with fucking Vietnam and Afghanistan and Iraq and the 80 years war we've been in since World War II, once a real war gets started between peers, it's almost impossible to stop.
It's like, it's a forest fire eventually starts making its own weather, which
until there's no food, until there's no fuel left. And what is that? Humans.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So people need to also understand this. We have been at war. I wrote an article on this, right? We have been at war, all out war globally since World War II.
Mm-hmm.
We've been in an 80 years war.
You're dead right on that.
Right. So during the quote unquote GWOT, which is just what we labeled that period of the war, right? The epoch, the GWOT epoch, there was the Vietnam epoch, it's
arbitrary bookmarking,
right. It's just it's branding. It's just
you can call it New Year's, you can call it January 1st. It's just the earth rotating.
So we've been at war. So during the GWOT, again, when I was a targeting guy, we were in 125 countries fighting. We were either doing, clandestine stuff or foreign internal defense or stability operation. We were in 125 out of 195 fucking countries. At one point, at the peak of the GWOT, there was only 10 countries in the war that didn't have conflict. 10. That's a world war. So we've been at war for 80 years nonstop. And it's built to such a point where the retards that we let get into power are now ready to take us to the next step to nuclear war to win. Well, nobody wins nuclear war. And so now the adults, right, the old timers who remember, exactly what you're saying, Tommy, who remember we did try all this shit for decades, right, have got to put a stop to that. And what does that mean? Well, we got to burn out all of this infrastructure, draw it out, call it out, bring it out, break all these dependencies, break all these obligations, elucidate all of these clandestine covert networks and burn them, right? Expend their resources, expend the personnel, destroy any of the ability for, the double black book folks and then the single black book folks to actually take us to World War III, because we're that fucking close to nuclear war. That's the nuclear clock, right? What was it last year? We were the closest to midnight we've ever been, quite despite the Cold War.
Yeah, there's a great line. I mean, you've mentioned the dead hand. That's a good. But there's another.
Russians, yeah.
Yeah, there's another book called Command and Control by Eric Schlosser, and it's a fantastic book about whatever fucking ICBM silos almost specifically. And I just love how it ends though, because the entire thing is going into it, the power of these things, fueling them, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then the final book, yeah, it's it's like 10 years after the Cold War or something. And he's like he's like writing from the silo, and he's like, the silo, like a massive gun pointed towards the sky, the bullet and nuclear warhead pointing cocked. And here's the thing everyone forgets. They still work no less than the day the Cold War ended.
Correct.
They still work and they're still aimed.
Correct. And they're
It's
still
over.
powered.
But people forget about this.
And they're still fueled, and they're still
maintained.
Correct.
And
No,
Obama
on election
administration,
day,
to his
people
credit,
forget
$1 trillion
about this.
refab. Yeah, it's
People forget about this. On election day, Biden did a test of our Trident missiles, right, which went off flawlessly, by the way. And our missiles in their silos can hit anywhere in the world within 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Literally anywhere in the world.
With a CEP, a circular error probability now, back in the 50s, it was like 2 miles. Now it's like, what, 10 feet?
10 feet. Yeah. Yeah, and that's with jamming and everything else, right? Once you get it up into orbit and then it falls back down, it's
Well, and then it breaks apart into a shotgun approach. We have all these treaties that say you can only put 5, but they're all able to hold 20. What do you think's going to do?
Well, the Russians just did. The Russians got 36.
Yeah, it says
36.
There's no treaties. It's what we agreed.
No. Well, and that's.
But the point is it all still works. All of it's still there. Again, kind of flowing down from that point of we tried and it doesn't work and we can't do it.
Yeah.
And if it does happen, it will work.
And everybody.
So then flow down from there.
Yeah. So this is perfect, Tommy. Perfect. And this is a positive, right? This is actually a positive. Good. Okay. It doesn't matter if ARC is an alliance. It doesn't matter what it is it's the 3 great powers, the 3 great nuclear powers on Earth saying we are not going to nuclear war. And we are going to partner. We're going to collaborate is probably a better term. We're going to collaborate where we have to do what we need to globally to remove this ever-present threat. We're going to end this 80-year war because it's now reached its inevitable conclusion where, one, it can't be afforded anymore. We just can't economically, financially, civilizationally, population-wise support this never-ending war anymore. And because of that, what happens? Well, losing powers immediately go to the nuclear option. It's just how lesser minds think. And we got all those in power now, and they were put there on purpose. So what's happening is we don't need to have an alliance. There doesn't have to be treaties. We don't have to do, no. The 3 great nuclear powers have said we are not going to nuclear war. And we will collaborate where we have to and how we have to in all these sophisticated, clever ways so we don't get couped and revolutioned in our own countries and then thereby put those weapons in the hands of the retards, the violent fucking idiot retards.
Yeah.
And we're not going to allow this. So we should all take confidence. Now, does it mean it's happened yet? And they've succeeded in all that? Well, you've got 80 years of all this clandestine, covert, and overt and non-clandestine, warfare going on. We're undoing 80 years of global war. That's a difficult thing. How do you back away from that? How do you do it without getting couped? Why do they want to coup Iran? Because they will put the new British regime in there. If they put the crown prince on there, the Shah's son, he will launch war against Israel. He will. I'm telling you right now, what he will do is he will use the missiles, the Iranian, Persian missiles and drones, which have been proven to be able to hit anywhere in Israel that they want to, and they will wipe Israel from the map, and the world goes to nuclear war. Right? Same thing with Venezuela. Right? Venezuela and Mexico. Mexico's next on the table. I don't know exactly how that happens because we have a unique relationship with Mexico that we don't have with Venezuela. And what is that unique relationship? Well, where I live out here in the West, this used to all be fucking Mexico, right? The Spanish Empire. And so we got a whole lot of folks out here, unlike the Venezuelans, et cetera. And it's a much more complicated thing as well. A lot of our manufacturing, our American manufacturing is in Mexico.
I love the Tim Dillon bit of, we're not going to Mexico. The primary conflict of interest is, well, because they work for us. So why would we attack our own employees?
Right?
That's the main.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of honesty to that statement.
Yeah. It's like, how come we're not going in there? It's like, why does Amazon not bomb Whole Foods? It's a subsidiary.
It's a subsidiary. We can also deal, we deal with the cartel stuff.
Yeah.
We end the illicit funding, and we end that part of it. Mexico goes back to being a solid country fairly quickly, right? Mexicans are actually astounding people. I have a lot of respect for them, a lot of appreciation. And, being a Western American guy, right? I grew up and around these people since I was a kid, and they're pretty amazing. Some of their families have been here a lot longer than mine, and my family got out here in the early 1800s, right? So give me a second. So it's something we should all take as a positive, right? So we don't end this one on a negative, right? There's no way Russia, China, and the United States are not going to be collaborating in every way that they can on every dimension of the 7 elements of power as possible, right? Within the limits of what they can do without being couped and revolutioned in their own countries, to ensure that we back away from nuclear midnight. And for anybody to think that isn't the case, they don't understand. Right? Including a lot of guys that come from one of my worlds, the special operations and the intelligence world. If they don't understand that that's where we are and that's really what's has to happen and what's going on, then they don't understand war, and they don't understand power, and they don't really actually understand what the hell's really happening at the higher level. Right? That's, again, we've all been conditioned to the great game of management. And what we have to understand is there's power above that. The sport of kings is above it. And the sport of kings is what plays the great game when it has to. Why? Because when the kings show themselves, they are vulnerable. So they very rarely, the true power people, right? The true power organizations, institutions, people, they very rarely want to ever highlight themselves, because then it makes them a direct target. But there are times in history where they do step forward and they play the table. And they manipulate the table to ensure that the table doesn't burn the world to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in one of those periods.
So to kind of scale it back to what Halsey was saying earlier, is Trump, Greenland, Canada, how much? Because when it was going on last year, it was going on for like a month or so, and my take last year, I was like, I think it's a troll, and I thought it was.
Well, here's the thing. Let me clarify. It's not a troll. It's a troll. The idea that we're going to conquer Greenland. Okay, we need Greenland for our missile.
I know that.
So
we're going to buy it.
That's what we're going to do.
Acquisition, whatever you want to call it. Is that a troll, or is that?
It's not a troll. It's introducing a concept in the zeitgeist in a way that people will fight against.
Which is what smart people use trolls for. You put out a fucking test flag.
Correct.
You go, this is kind of wacky, isn't it?
Correct.
And then when people start retweeting it, you go, actually, that's not wacky. That's what I believe.
Correct. And then a year later or 2 years later, like, oh, actually, that makes a lot of sense. Right. Yeah. But it's also a shot across the bow, to some folks that are thinking that they're going to use Greenland, because people need to understand something. If Europe thinks it's going to fight us through Canada, using Canada's resources, et cetera, its staging area is Greenland.
Mm-hmm.
100%. On the way across.
Yeah.
Right. So, and people talk about the Arctic sea routes and all this. Terribly sorry, people, because they keep thinking that the Arctic is losing its ice. Sorry, people. It's actually gaining ice.
Yeah, that was also a lie. You fucking idiot.
Right. Hate to tell you, it's gaining ice. Right.
It's been. The only place they're getting the negative Greenland ice thing is because in one part of Greenland the ice has depreciated. They don't mention where it's gained all the ice.
Correct. Well, same with Antarctica and yeah.
That's why they'll go, the certain shelf, I forgot what it's called, in Greenland has been losing ice now for 40 years. This is a catastrophe. They don't mention the rest of Greenland has more than compensated for it, like tenfold.
Or the fact that Greenland is one giant field of volcanoes.
Laurentian? Is it the Laurentian?
I forget. Even if you mention it, I'm not going to remember.
I have no idea.
But EM, I sent you, I was just looking for it. That's why I was distracted for a minute. Yeah, I know you love the historical stuff. I just sent you an economic podcast about 1077 BC that you're going to find incredibly interesting.
Awesome.
Because it's so relevant to today. You're gonna find it so interesting.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
So, and Tommy, I wanted to mention also there's an expression that when I told EM, he convinced me to go to premium, right? There's an expression that was used in, I think it was the 60s, right? It's called the old gray whistle test. Have you ever heard this expression? There was a recording studio called Tamla Motown. They did all the Motown music.
Yeah.
And the way they didn't just hire artists, they hired writers, right? There was a big lawsuit about it because they hired all these kind of like black jazz musicians, and they would just sit around and crank out songs. Right. And they would pay them like $200.
No royalties. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the way they would know they had a hit is if they gave it what they called the old gray whistle test. They would take the song and they would put it through the building's speaker system. And the housekeepers were like the maids were called old grays. And if the next day they heard them whistling the song, they knew they had a hit. Yeah. So they would say they were going to give it the old gray whistle test. And I do the same with like things like I'm on the fence about whether I'm going to pay for or not. And with Twitter Premium, I noticed that everyone who knows EM, they constantly write to me and say, "Did you read the latest article that EM wrote?" Meaning they read it and they wanted to know my take on it, which lets me know people are reading what he's writing. It's not just that they're
for letting me know. They don't tell me that.
All the time I get to you. Did you see whether like even your haters do it? They're like, "Oh, did you see this bullshit that EM just wrote?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't read it yet." And even if I have, I always say I haven't read it yet because I want to see what their take is. You know what I'm saying? And so they'll be like, "Oh, he said this and this and this," and I'm like, "They read it. They didn't just see the headline. They read it." You know, like
who was it that said
this has got to be worth
no
it.
press is bad press?
Yeah,
I can't remember what that said it, but
as I said, like I signed up for Twitter Premium Plus because I gave it the old gray whistle test, and it came through tenfold.
Awesome,
you know.
I don't think what I get is actually kind of infuriating, and it's not really. I'm being a douche, but people always point out, they'll be like, I'm glad you do these whatever groups, and then it will be like, I'm surprised you were able to like poach it from someone else. I'm like, what do you mean? And a lot of the shows, but for instance, like the bald ones, like Luongo Kunstler Column, I've been doing those forever. And somebody commented like, I love these, but you poached them from Mike Ferris, and I've had Mike on the show. I like him. I was like, what are you talking? And I went and looked at it, and like, oh, he was having the bald. God bless. But I was like, yeah, I've been doing it for like 4 years prior to that. But because I was banned from YouTube for 5 years, I'll have these shows. I'll be like, oh man, you need to have Dale on. He's been doing this thing forever. I'm like, what are you talking about? And like, so that's just my own. I don't get the old gray whistle. I get people saying like, cool, you're having them on, but like you're stealing them. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm finding the people are sending me counterfeits to me and telling me I'm counterfeiting. And I'm like, it all comes down to I don't have any money, and I'll happily throw Guatemalan out of a plane. That's what I'm trying to get to. I don't fucking care, dude. But that's just me bitching.
Well, I think if we can just throw some of the critics out of the freaking helicopter. Right. The problem is that too few people have been throat punched for being an asshole anymore. I suspect, to be quite honest, that's coming back.
I agree.
I suspect it's coming back because it's way less expensive to punch somebody for being an asshole, that, you know, undeservedly an asshole, than it is to let society burn to the fucking ground, because now all we have is the voice of assholes yelling all the time. The world's pretty amazing. People are pretty fucking amazing. We're just overwhelmed. You know, the party, you know, this wonderful party that is life, right? That is our existence, that is our communion with other human beings, is just overwhelmed with assholes because we're not allowed to throw them by the fucking scruff of their neck and, you know, jimmy their fucking underwear up and throw them out the fucking door like we used to. They learned, and the ones that didn't weren't invited back.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
There was always a value to getting punched in the face. Always.
Dude, I've been punched in the face way more than once, and way more than once I deserved it. Right? And I learned a lot.
Yeah.
And then
no.
sometimes I did that anyways because the guy pissed me off, and I just wanted to
No,
get in a
it's
scruff, right?
yeah, no, if you're a sentient human being with above room temperature IQ, even bad interact, we all benefit from them. It's good that
Yes.
this happened. It's like, well, you're kind of being a cunt. Well, I don't do that anymore. Why? Well, I didn't like the feeling of being a cunt.
Yeah, my
But
nose doesn't connect anymore because
yeah,
it's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's funny because I was just telling someone I lost my temper the other day, and like I was back in high school, and I was a little like disappointed in myself for it, but like looking back on it, I'm not anymore. I was dropping my son off at a basketball practice, and I made a turn onto the street, and this guy comes flying up the street like triple the speed limit and starts like flashing his lights at me because I wasn't driving fast enough. So I did what anyone else would do. I slowed down to 15 miles an hour and just went on for a while. So he could really fucking lose his mind. And then at the next light, he pulled up next to me and he said something like, "You're lucky your kid's in the car with you, or I would fucking show you what's up." And I was like, "Well, I'm lucky my kid's in the car because I got someone to show off for." And I got out of the car and started walking towards him, and he took one look at me and he floored it out of there. And I was like, I really shouldn't lose my temper like that. Like I was like disappointed in myself, and then I looked at my son and he's just looking at me with these huge eyes and he's like, "That was the most awesome thing I've ever seen."
What are you talking
And I
about?
was like,
That's exactly what you should have done for your son. Don't fucking bitch out and back down. Right?
No, I'm not built that way. I don't.
Stop being cunts.
No, I've to what you were saying, Halsey, and then we'll wrap it up because I got another show coming. But I've early on in the podcast, I'd always like lose my temper and comments and stuff, and then I got a lot better at just like not doing that. What I have found though is, it's like once or twice a year now, I'll really just fly off the handle. But I've found it's now when it happens, it's because it's like a repeat offender that I've tried nicely to like kind of, push around and stuff. But when it comes to a point of like almost like slander, if it starts getting to a point of like this, that, or the other thing,
Or personal attack. Yeah.
then I'll do it.
Yeah.
And it always there's positive feedback because it always stops immediately. And the thing is almost everyone that's ever happened with, I've since become friends with. Like almost,
Yeah.
if they're worth their salt, you guys will eventually become friends, and you'll be like, "Hey, sorry about that." But like, no, man, sorry. But and literally, like two of the guys now I'm like buddies with. I've had both of them on the show to eviscerate them, but by the time they come on, we've already talked. And so that's
Yeah,
kind of a boring.
I get that a lot too.
Unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of time in life. And I have gotten to the point just in the last year, by the way, I never did before, where I'm blocking people every day. It's just like, I don't need to fight
Yeah, I do
you.
too.
I don't need to argue with you.
I do it.
don't
I do it on
need
YouTube now. I never do it
Right.
on Rumble or anything else. But I'm back on YouTube and I'm actually making money.
Awesome.
And I'm like, how much of this is my ego? Like, hey, you fucking dumb cunt. And another part of me is like,
Yeah.
I don't know what YouTube's rules are, and they're kind of paying for a part of my rent right now. Block. If I see him on Rumble, I'm gonna light your fucking puppies on fire on Christmas, faggot. Like YouTube, I just
Part of it for me is
Fuck.
less about that. Part of it for me is like, okay, well, if this person's getting so fucking pissed off and offended at my content, well, you don't need to interact with my content. I don't need to encroach
need to tell
upon
them
your
that.
space with my content. It's like, you're done.
yeah.
Right? Sorry, your life. Here's the way I look at it. I only had to deal with you for 30 seconds. You got to live with yourself every fucking minute of the day.
Well,
and that's
that's-
got to be some miserable shit.
And that's kind of
Yeah.
like that's kind
Well,
of like
I keep saying that to people. People keep saying like Jews need to arm up, and I keep saying they are. I qualify people for their carry permits literally every day. I've gotten like 300 Jews armed up just in my area, and people call me all the time. And they're like, "Have you seen that there's like this huge increase in anti-Semitism?" I'm like, "Look, I know it's there because people tell me, but I'm not the kind of guy that someone walks up to and calls a kike in the middle of the street. Like, so I personally don't see it." And they're like, "Yeah, but how do you deal with all these like Palestinian protesters?" I was like, "I only saw one. There was a guy standing at the 7-Eleven handing out like free Palestine flyers, and I just walked up to him and threw him in the trash. And I was like, 'We don't
It's
do this shit
easy.
here. Fuck
Stop
off.'"
wearing
And
the
he
yellow
left.
star on your clothes. It's easy.
No, I'm
How the
obviously
hell are they going to
Jewish.
know
I
you're
have the
Jewish?
fringes that hang from my clothes.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, look, I'm 6'1", I'm 250. Like, people aren't walking. If you're walking up to a Jew to insult them on the street, I'm not that person. You know what I'm saying? Like 90% of the time, I got a
It's
T-shirt on that says like Second Amendment is here for a reason or something like that, or I'm your Huckleberry. So like, it's just you're gonna pick a much softer target than me if you want to start yelling at people on
I
the
will
street.
say something to this though. I don't. Again, a lot of people are angry, and there's a lot of value in that because there's a lot of shitty things have been done to people that haven't. There's no place for them in society. They don't have ability to build assets, and so there's a lot of anger out there. And I don't completely discount that. They've been lied to, again and again and again, and deceived again and again and again, and so I don't. I got the father part of me too, right, where I understand that and I accept it. And they're being intentionally pointed towards the whipping boys, and they're being intentionally pointed and directed to certain peoples and certain conversations, etc. So there is a good amount of anger out there that's valid and it's real. It's just being pointed at the wrong people and the wrong things, right? So I don't want to invalidate completely the anger and the rage that's in people. That's fucking real, right? But it doesn't need to. I don't block everybody. It's the ones that come after me personally, right? That come after, because I get death threats.
Me too,
literally.
all the time.
And my kid, right? And it's like, okay, well, there's a certain line where I realize any engagement with this person is just going to escalate this, and it's going to go to some place that's not redeemable, and then maybe somewhere one of these is going to try and do something.
Yeah, no,
you know what I do? I do use them sometimes to explain to people like what it would take to get me at my house. Because I live right behind me is a train track, right? So the land behind me is owned by the train company. So they had to put up a 20-foot fence in the back of my yard with barbed wire at the top of it because that's the law for train tracks. So I've got a steel reinforced privacy fence that goes around the rest of my property. I have video surveillance. I have alarms because I'm an FFL. I have to have these things, right? Also, all of my doors and windows are reinforced with steel, again, because I have to. So I tell people, like, if you can get through all of that and get into my house, you're walking into a Rottweiler, a Pit Bull, and a Pit Bull mix that are waiting for you the minute you get the door open. And should you get through them, I have more guns than the Alamo, and everyone in my family knows how to use them. So good luck with your pathetic little gay gripe or death threats that like you're going to come in my house and try to stab somebody. Like you will be shredded in the instant you try. Like
I have 5 cats and a red laser on my pistol. I'm just going to put that
good
red
enough.
laser on you.
Mm-hmm.
I've tactically become friends with countless Delta Force operators who at a certain point I think would avenge me because I make sure I help all of them whenever I can. I was gonna say is no, but one, I was gonna say, yeah, I'm not too concerned about it because I'll block them if it gets worse. And I start to reach for the podcast gun, and then I thought, I don't know what YouTube's rules are, so I'm gonna keep put it there. No, but very lastly, and then I got to bounce is what you're saying, EM, is I look at all the times in my life and just everyone loses their temper. I'm like, well, what were the points where I was really just, taking every bait, really?
Yeah.
And it was the several years after my brother died when I put on 70 pounds and I was on Xanax and cough syrup and acid and drinking and smoking and fat and angry and unemployed. And what was I really?
So you were a liberal.
I was angry. I was angry I was angry at everything. And that was punishment enough.
Yeah.
And honestly,
yeah,
it really didn't matter. If it didn't matter if somebody dunked on me and owned me, I didn't off to the next
That's
target.
why I don't do it. I don't.
That doesn't mean submit. That doesn't. If it starts to affect your business, your income, that's when I'll go all those scorched earth.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff, man, I look at and I'm like, that dude's probably fucking. He probably buried his dad last week and he's on a 9-day bender.
Exactly.
Like.
I don't need to attack you. I don't need to push back.
Doesn't mean
my ego doesn't need.
Doesn't mean bend over. If push bumps you physically or they fuck you with your business, sure.
Yeah.
But there's a part of me where I'm like, you can tell what's troll and you can tell when someone's in pain. And I see that and I go, I have no idea what just fucking happened.
What's going on?
I have no idea what the fuck just happened. So and that's a huge part to try to stay.
The ones that you can reach, you can not all of them, but some of them you kind of get it because of the way they word it. or
Yeah,
you'll do something and then they'll come back with something that's less offensive and is like, okay, they're trying to connect.
yeah, no, you can if you can lower your ego and you can
Yeah,
maybe potentially see some olive
yeah,
branches, and then it's
yeah,
up to you to, and that's
yeah.
the guys I've gotten into like huge arguments, and because it came down to like slander and affecting like the
Mm,
podcasts, were two dudes that I was like, come on the fucking show, faggot, like let's do it. And
yeah,
then we've literally have like become hey, Merry Christmas, man, you too, buddy, like,
yeah.
and
Well,
those
that's
are
the way
fine.
when we were kids, you know, we'd say something and get in a fight, we literally knock down, drag down fight. Those are some of my best friends to this day.
Yeah. And then the one example, and I won't even say their name because I don't want this is going back to 2023. There was no peace, and that's when I, like Halsey said, I made it very abundant on very,
Mm,
very frequent shows that I knew he was watching because he's in the comment section to hold up weapons and be like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't give a shit. I'll fucking kill you.
yeah,
So I'll
yeah,
kill you with love. But
yeah.
we got to wrap up again. The
Yep.
YouTube, I'm like, money. But yeah, we got to wrap this shit up, guys. We'll
All
send
right,
it to you. It'll
guys.
be up in like an hour or something.
Pleasure.
Guys,
Cool.
please.
Send me the audio when you
Yeah,
get a
yeah, yeah,
chance.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. For everybody watching, please go in the description. Please go follow them, all their stuff, blah, 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 retweet, blah, blah, whatever. And yeah, we'll throw some Guatemalan. So, next time, where the fuck is
I'm with you.
I think,
See you
well,
guys.
hold on. I
See you
think
later, guys.
my
Yep.
mouse, my mouse just died. So now I'm sitting here awkwardly. Can you guys leave the room so I can end it?
Yep. Bye.
Bye. My, is my mouse dead? My mouse. There we go. Hey guys, real quick, you guys know Basil Baz, ARC, the Association for the Recovery of Children. I just did a fundraiser with them the other day, and I'm going to put this on to every episode I do. They are special forces veterans who physically rescue trafficked children. They have since 1993. They have a 100% success rate. They do not take salaries. They all have day jobs, and they literally rescue sex trafficked children. Donations to them are a tax write-off. I get nothing from them, and they have not asked me to put this on. I've included this little clip on episodes for the last year or so, and I'm just re-recording it because I just got to meet him just 2 days ago for future. It's November 25th, 2025, but this will be on every episode now for the next year. And there is nothing better you can do with your money. Um, if you can support them for even $5, please do that. It is, they truly are doing the Lord's work, and I think we all have an obligation to do that. Thank you so much.
Higher ultraviolet exposure is associated with lower mortality. The United Kingdom is a high latitude and low sunlight country. Researchers there collected data on over 360,000 participants in a study of UV exposure via solarium use. When compared with non-users, solarium users had 15% risk lowered of all-cause mortality, 23% lower risk of cardiovascular mortality, 14% lower risk of cancer mortality, and a 12% lower risk of non-cardiovascular, non-cancer mortality. In other words, all other causes. Quoting the researchers, our study adds to the growing evidence that the benefits of UV exposure outweigh the risks in low sunlight environments. A link to the original publication is available in the box below the video. Get some UV light this winter. Immerse yourself in the tranquility of the blue. Visit a Blue Room soon. www.blueroom.com.
Hey guys, a huge sponsor of the show is Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food. Clayton lives down in Georgia. He's been on the show before. It's actually nearby where I went to college. They are a huge sponsor of the show. They give me some money every month, even when I don't sell enough to warrant that paycheck. Meaning that the show is not free. It's just that it's free for you. If you guys need prepper food or if you're just interested in supporting the show, I'd please ask you to go to the link in the description. Go to Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food, promo code TPC for 10% off. 72 servings per pail, 25-year shelf life. These things are, they double as dumbbells. Pasta Primavera, cheesy potato soup. mac and cheese, loaded baked potato casserole, chili mac, cheddar broccoli soup, cheesy lasagna, teriyaki rice. You can get banana chips. There's also raspberries, strawberries, and apples. There's a bunch of freeze-dried fruit, or you can even get seeds to plant your own garden. It's not a bad thing to have. It's like gold or ammunition. It's a good thing to have. It's a bad thing if you have to use it, but it's good. It's good to have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. So that's what I'd say. And if you just want to support the show, please go to the link in the description. Please go support them because they support me. Thank you so much, guys.